In this video, I'm going to show you the best bullet bill strats for every track in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Alright, so it's worth mentioning that some bill strats are way more effective than others, and that's simply because most tracks don't have what are called bill extensions. Now, if you don't know what a bill extension is, you'll know what I'm talking about when we get to one. And as always, if it's not in your best interest to use one of these strats, just don't bother. These are just good to know and can work really well if using one is in your best interest. Alright, I talk too much. Let's start giving her, bud. Alright, so the bill strat on Mario Kart Stadium can actually be a win-win whether you correctly execute it or not. You want to activate your bill when you pass this slam. Now, for the best results, it's really important to hold right upon reaching the glider. This will give you a bill extension, and your bill will last until you get past the final turn. Now, let's say you forget to hold right upon reaching the glider. It's actually not the end of the world, because even though your bill will end early, you'll be dropped off high in the glider section, and you'll still be able to take an unconventional version of the glider cut. This can also be very valuable in a lap 3 situation if you can combine it with a speed item like a golden. On Water Park, use your bill just before the ramp before the first underwater section. Even though you won't be able to get another box at the second set, if you hold left the whole way through, you'll save a ton of time in an uncomfortable place on the track if you're vulnerable. It's a decent bill strat, all things considered. Using your bill at the donut shortcut on Sweet Sweet Canyon will do you a lot of good. You're taking it through a shortcut, you're taking it through a tight space in the track, and you won't get target shocked either. The only real downside to this one is that it'll drop you off right after the cannon glider, and you might be in an awkward position, but other than that, this is a solid bill strat. If you use your bill as you go off the anti-gravity ramp on Thwomp Ruins, you'll be set big time as you'll be invincible until you go over the gap over the glider. And this is a great bill strat in a lap 3 situation. If you need another item though, your best bet is to use your bill as you approach the first glider, whether it's open or not. Either way, your bill will drop you off at the same spot. And I'll show you how it looks going through the middle and not going through the middle. And you can see here that you'll pretty much get the same result. Alright, contrary to what would be popular belief, this track is actually not the greatest for bills. Now, you do have two places where you can use it, those being the big shortcuts, but there's a drawback to both of them. So using your bill at the first big shortcut will cut off a ton of off-road, but you'll get dropped off in a terrible line. I've tried to delay it as much as possible while still trying to make the bill worth it, but I could just never get a good landing. Now, the second big cut can be really strong in a lap 3 situation, but that's about it. You'll once again cut off a ton of off-road, but not only will you barely miss the first set, but you'll get dropped off in a terrible line here as well. It's pretty disappointing, but it is what it is. On Toad Harbor, use your bill as soon as you can take the top path. If you wait too long, you'll land in a terrible line. Even the bill strat here doesn't have a good landing. But on a more positive note, you're using a bill through a tight section of the track, so it can be a pretty solid bill strat overall. One of the bill strats in Twisted Mansion really is as simple as it looks. You just hop into the library shortcut, use your bill, and you're giving her. Just remember to jump into the cut. Don't just use your bill as soon as you get there, or you'll probably get a bad landing. Now, with this bill strat, it's really important to hold back on the glider just before using your bill. I've had mixed experiences with using my bill before the glider, but every time I did the bill strat this way, I always ended up taking the top path. So one way or another, if you execute this properly, you're giving her full throttle with this bill strat. On Shy Falls, just use your bill at the ending shortcut. It's not too special, especially since you'll be dropped off after the first set, but it still gets the job done. It can be pretty solid in a lap 3 situation too. Use your bill where you'd begin your first drift on Sunshine Airport. It'll drop you off just before the split path, so it's pretty decent overall. Also, the execution in this clip just looks pretty sick. This is one of the most popular bill strats in the game, and for good reason. On Dolphin Shoals, use your bill shortly after passing the finish line, and since there's a bill extension here, you'll be dropped off just before the second set. However, if you're closer to the path, you should activate your bill as you enter the water again. You'll get to the extension more quickly, so if you end up passing a ton of people, your bill won't end early like it would if you did the better strat. Now, you should only use this strat in a lap 3 situation, but regardless, activate your bill just before entering the anti-gravity section, and because it also includes a bill extension, it'll drop you off right before the finish line. On Electrodrome, just activate your bill as you get to the ending shortcut. Your bill will end on the anti-gravity straight, so this is a pretty solid strat. Even though the build won't get you too far in Mount Wario, using your build before the glider cut will save you from getting screwed over by whatever in the tree section. This could also really help if you're trying to catch up, because using your build at any point after the strat is completely useless. Use your build before landing on the second balloon on Cloud Top Cruise. The slowdown animation before the build ends will take place as soon as you're on the cannon glider, so it's a pretty good build strat. Not much else to say here, really. On Bone Dry Dunes, activate your build just before the glider, and it'll drop you off right in front of the finish line. I actually used this build strat more recently after holding a blue shell for most of the race, and I went from about 11th to 6th. It's pretty damn good. Unfortunately, there isn't a whole ton of value out of this build strat on Bowser's Castle, but for what it's worth, use your build when you get to the ending shortcut. You'll get a decent landing, but it is in a tight section. Not very poggers if you ask me. The build strat on Rainbow Road is simple, but it's still really good. Activate your build as soon as you land, ideally in the off-road, and it'll drop you off just after the finish line. It's a great build strat in general, but this one really shines in lap 3 situations. On Moo Moo Meadows, use your bill as you jump into the second grass cut. It'll drop you off just before the last turn, so it's not only great in a lap 3 situation, but any situation really. You're billing through some tight areas on the track, and not having to worry about getting hit here can be really reassuring, especially considering how short races are on this track. And here comes the next bill extension. Use your bill as you hop into the first grass cut of GBA Mario Circuit. If you don't pass too many people, it'll take you through the entire anti-gravity section, and it'll drop you off on the turn before the last set. This is a really good bill strat, and it's essential to know. If you use your build just after passing the last palm tree on Cheep Cheep Beach, it'll take you right to the finish line, point blank period. This is way more valuable than it looks though, since this part of the track is super tight. Because of this build strat really shines on lap 3. On the second big turn of Toad's Turnpike, release your Super Mini Turbo here. Your cue to activate your build is after your Super Mini Turbo runs out, and it'll last until you reach the finish line. You can't really do much else with the build on this track, but at least it's great in a lap 3 situation. Getting a bill on Dry Desert could be your worst nightmare unless your best option is using this bill strat. You want to activate your bill as you hop into the double shroom cut, and it'll last just until the last set. Since you'll only pull a bill while bagging, this can be very valuable, especially on lap 2. If you only have a bill, go for an item at the second set, then hop into the off-road. It'll still take you to the last set, so this is easily the best bill strat on this track. On Donut Plains 3, use your build after hopping in the off-road on the third last turn. You'll have a really good chance of winning the race by using this on lap 2 and chaining a star at the first set of lap 3 if you have one. But either way, this build strat is really good. Using your build at the shortcut after the glider on Roll Raceway will benefit you a lot. You're cutting off some off-road, you're invincible in a tight space, and it'll get dropped off just after the finish line. So once again, it's great in a lap 3 situation. If you use your build as you hop into the grass cut before the glider on DK Jungle, it'll drop you off just before exiting the anti-gravity section. There's not much else to say, really. It is a pretty good build strat, though. On Wario Stadium, use your build as you hit the second set. It'll drop you off as you're about to exit the anti-gravity section, similar to the strat on DK Jungle. I'd say this one isn't as good though, because you aren't cutting anything off in the bill or just before billing, but on its own, it's still pretty solid. Alright, you gotta make sure that you activate your bill on the right here on Sherbet Land. If you take the underwater section, it'll last a bit longer, but you won't get a box at the next set. Like, as in, you'll barely pass it. And using it on the left is just a waste of time. Like, I don't need to explain this. Don't do it. Using your bill after passing the second Piranha Plant on Music Park will benefit you big time. It'll drop you off just before the glider ramp, plus you'll use it through the keys section, which can be really valuable. This is definitely one of the better bill strats in this game. On Yoshi Valley, use your bill as you hit the second set. You'll be safe from getting screwed over on some annoying turns if you were vulnerable, and it'll drop you off to grab the left doubles. This might not be the greatest bill strat in regards to grabbing the left doubles if you get dropped off in the pack, since both double sets are very attractive at any point in the race. And for the love of God, stop using your bill at the first bridge. It's just not worth it in any way, shape, or form. If you need to use your bill around this time though, use it as soon as you're on the left side of the split path. The bill will drop you off just before the second set. Much better than taking the first bridge and just using your bill there. I don't know why it's so popular. It's kind of ridiculous, I'm not gonna lie. Make sure you go as tight as possible before activating your bill on TikTok clock. It's a sick bill strat since it takes the ending shortcut like it's another day in the office, and it'll literally drop you off just before the first set. Like I said, however, it's really important to go as tight as possible, because this is what will happen if you don't. The bill strat on Piranha Plant Slide could help you quite a bit. Simply hop into the ending shortcut, then activate your bill. It'll drop you off just after passing the first Piranha Plant, so considering you're taking it through some of the tightest sections of the track, it's a pretty solid bill strat. On Grumble Volcano, use your bill just before entering the cave at the beginning. Even though it'll drop you off just after the second set, this bill strat can be insanely useful. I used it in the Instant Team Cup semifinals, and if you saw that video, you'd know that I took a bill up to third and had a star afterwards. So yeah, this one is pretty sick. And ending off the retros, unfortunately, you can't do a lot with the bill on N64 Rainbow Road, but that was probably to be expected. But for what it's worth, your cue to activate your bill is after your Ultra Mini Turbo before the second last turn runs out. Even though you won't be invincible for the rest of the race, if you do get hit, it'll be on the glider, so the damage won't be too bad. It's an alright bill strat, all things considered, though. Alright, most people just hop into the waterfall shortcut of Yoshi Circuit before using their bill, but you can actually go over to the right off-road, use your bill early, and still get the full extension. Just be aware that the bill will drop you off just before the turn before the last set. I like to brake drift heavily as my bill runs out for that reason alone. Excite Bike Arena really isn't anything too special. You just hop into the first grass cut and activate your bill. Yeehaw, bud! I should mention though that it's better to use the bill at this grass cut rather than the one at the end, because even though they last the same amount of time, you'll get dropped off much further away from the next set by using your bill at the ending grass cut. So just keep that in mind when you have a bill on this track. On Dragon Driftway, simply use your bill as you hop into the ending shortcut, and it'll drop you off just before the first set. And considering how tight the beginning of this track can be, this bill strat can be pretty valuable. And now for the second last bill extension of this video. On Mute City, use your bill as you hit the second boost panel after the second set. This one is really good, especially in a lap 3 situation, as you'll get dropped off right before the finish line. If you use your bill right after releasing your mini turbo before the last set of Wario's Gold Mine, it'll take you right to the finish line. It's not the greatest, but it's still decent in a lap 3 situation, so you still got that. To get the best results, use your bill as you go off this ramp on SNES Rainbow Road. You won't be invincible for the rest of the lap, but you'll be invincible on the tightest sections of the track, so hey, that's still pretty good. On Ice Ice Outpost, use your bill when you find yourself under the yellow path as shown here. You'll be invincible on a tight section of the track, you won't be getting target shocked, and the bill will drop you off right in front of the finish line. So all things considered, this is a pretty solid bill strat. Using your bill as you hit the glider ramp of Hyrule Circuit will set yourself up in a great way. It'll take you down the staircase really quickly, like a lot quicker than usual, and it'll drop you off just after the split path. You also won't get target shocked, so that's pretty sick. Yeah, the bill strat on Baby Park is pretty boring. You just activate your bill in the grass cut, and that's about it. It'll last for about a lap, but for what it's worth, it's still invincibility on Baby Park, and that's always reassuring. This is easily the most reliable bill strat in the game. You simply want to hop into the off-road at the beginning and just start giving her with the bill. I don't think I've ever been in a scenario where I used my bill here and it ended early. So yeah, if you're not hard bagging, just use your bill right here. Words cannot describe how valuable this bill strat is. Now on the flip side of the coin, this bill strat really isn't anything too special. On Wild Woods, just use your bill after you land from the ramp before the last set. It'll drop you off right before the finish line, so at the very least, it's pretty good in a lap 3 situation. On Animal Crossing, use your bill after passing the water stream. It's really important to wait until this point though, because otherwise you'll get a terrible landing. By using your bill here, it'll drop you off just after the last turn. And given how chaotic the items at the last set can be, this bill strat can be really good in a lap 3 situation. This bill strat is probably the best bill strat in the game that doesn't have a bill extension. On New Bowser City, activate your bill just before the first turn after the second set. It'll take you through the entire S turn and drop you off on the straight before the final set. This bill strat can do major damage under the right circumstances. Make sure you hop well into the ending shortcut of Ribbon Road before using your bill. This is kind of like a minor bill extension, but regardless, your bill will drop you right after the first turn on the green section of the track. A solid bill strat overall. Believe it or not, Super Bell Subway actually isn't that great of a track for bills. But at the very least, if you use your bill at the ending shortcut, you'll be invincible in a somewhat tight section, and your bill will drop you on the turn before the second set. It's alright, I guess. On Big Blue, just use your bill as soon as you land from the last gap shortcut. It's not very cinematic as you can see here, but it still gets the job done. Just another day in the office, baby. Well, there you have it. Those are the best bill strats for every track in Mario Kart Deluxe. And to be honest, I feel like after making these best places for an item videos, it gives me a much better grasp for the essentials on every track, which is pretty cool. But anyway, if you like what you saw, I'd really appreciate it if you liked the video and subscribed if you haven't already. And if you want to be notified on the spot when I drop a new video, check out my Discord server. The link is in the description. But with all that out of the way, thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic day, and keep on giving her, bud.